Hey there, my name's Niandra. Welcome to Mercy Commentary VODs where I play comp, then talk about my plays and mistakes. This is Iconwald at around 4200 SR, it's a win, and these are my final stats. In my last few commentary VODs and just matches in general, I'm noticing a consistent weak spot. And that is a tendency to go for dangerous reses, get killed doing so, and then my team suffers because the main healer is out of the fight. With Valkyrie's health regen and extra speed, I sometimes activate ult for a res, and in my opinion that is generally fine if it's a good opportunity to use ult anyway. But it's not a guarantee, and the consequences to failure are worse because I've also wasted my ult. So, in this match, I died 8 times during the first round, which is kind of a high death count for a match overall, and most of them were res related. As the round went on and into the second, I realised what was happening, so I focused on recovery and actually didn't die in the second round at all. Outside of all the bad reses, there's also some questionable decisions I made and gameplay I actually liked, so I'm quite eager to show this one.
One left.
Number one.
So, I see that the enemy team is running Sombra and Tracer while we have Torbjorn. If it's in a good position, I want to play near his turret when possible because it's fairly good protection against both of them. Tracer has a small health pool and needs to be close to minimise her spread. Auto aim that can cover multiple areas and doesn't really care about her small hitbox puts a timer on her. Either she'll be forced to recall or die. As for Sombra, her hack is interrupted and placed on cooldown when hit. Like Tracer, Sombra is also forced to fall back upon taking sufficient damage.
She's 1 HP.
Mercy one.
Nice dodge.
All top.
People. Oh.
I hear Sombra and Cloak and I want to be near the turrets. You can see Hanzo go behind me and a few seconds later I realise I'm looking at 4 allies, not 5. If someone is elsewhere, I should be flicking my camera view about because I want to keep track of all teammates.
Cover 2 series are back. Nice.
On the Discord, he's 1 health.
Nice one.
On
Nice
just
one
not
left
getting
side.
healed.
Help her.
Using cover, I push forward to help Hanzo and our Hog. We then start to fall back and I keep my beam on the Hanzo behind me over the hurt Hog in front. This is because I can't see Hanzo, he's squishier and closer to the choke. If he were to take damage I wouldn't have to spin around, and by watching Hog I know to flick my beam if he ends up taking even more.
Oh wait, you're next pull.
They're gonna have EMP,
Want to back up.
and you gotta hide.
A Hanzo's gonna die and I then Valk to res him, but don't go for it right away. This is usually fine, but I'm not doing anything to gather intel on whether the res is safe. I'm just hovering here looking at the corpse rather than, say, shimmy like this. After an arbitrary delay, I go for it without saying anything, then they bob and I die.
I'm pushing bubble. Where
I have to save her.
the ball? The ball?
They might EMP after the front end, be careful.
They're gonna EMP, they're gonna EMP.
I'm on my way back. Nice, you guys
I got 2, I got
They
3.
res ball. For a half.
Apagando las luces.
They follow on that.
I'm on my way back when Orisa dies with res almost ready. I hyper-focus on preparing to bring back our shield tank, keeping my camera view away from Roadhog dying to my left. I think playing from here upon arrival and shimmying would have been better, especially since I saw Hog hook someone, which I generally try to help with.
Ash 1, Ash 1.
I'm gonna damage boost our injured Orisa because I can see she's fortified from the golden tint, and I know she excels in close quarters. I heal her after she kills Hanzo, and my decision has given me more ult charge than if I had just healed her through the damage. Also, super minor, but about 10 seconds ago I could have let Zen have the ult charge from healing Hanzo. Neither of us had ult, but I can generally get mine quicker, while trans is more important. Plus, there was an injured Torb next to Hanzo who I could have healed while Zen dealt with the other. In a few seconds, our Hanzo is going to start a 1v1 with enemy Pharah, while away from the team, and I'm conflicted about how I handled it.
Pushing her.
Hanzo 1, Hanzo 1.
You
Oh,
pull?
You Hanzo can't see you.
So I position to help him, but immediately turn around. Once I unpause this footage, I'm going to fly to this group of injured allies and leave Hanzo to die. Maybe the solution was simply staying here, hoping Hanzo positioned for my beam while my camera faced here. But at the time, knowing Mercy's slowish single target heal, I worried I couldn't leave the fight for a single ally. Also, Hanzo might not be the quickest at killing Pharah. Anyway, I then die myself in a pretty dumb way. I think I ran towards Zenyatta to get his attention because I needed healing, but could've just asked. Obviously, standing behind the Orisa shield would have been better, but dragons can be seen in the bottom of my screen before they hit me, and backpedaling might literally have been enough to save me. Sometimes when I don't have a beam target and I almost have Valkyrie, I'll take the pistol out to get that last chunk of ult charge. Well, here I miss every shot and end up getting it passively, which is kind of embarrassing. I'm healing Hog and it really feels like I cannot out-heal what he's taking. He goes down to a single bar and I'm like, well, he's screwed, right? The fight already wasn't looking good, and in a last-ditch effort I'm gonna res this Orisa, and obviously doing that in front of everyone is a bad idea, but we'll get back to that later. What you'll notice is, while I appear in the kill feed, our Hog doesn't. That bastard managed to hold on until he could self-heal. Bringing back your main tank can be very impactful, but here she doesn't actually do much, and me being alive probably would have contributed more. Because I wrote our Hog off as dead so quickly, I ended up spending a lot of time with my camera view on our dead Orisa, which denied me information about the rest of my team, as well as the position of enemies.
Nice swap all
We need to
kidding.
get like
I'm
3.
taking care.
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe if you're good with it. Wait us. Wait on too. Ball's going
There it
behind
is,
the
Gordon.
swamp. Ball's
We're
on
going top
top.
castle.
It's a huge pick. Ball here.
They're top with Mercy top.
Ball. Yeah, we need some more for that. I'll go for it, I guess. I got a ball.
Speedy camera flick to behind me just in case someone else is playing in the castle.
She goes up.
All behind you.
Right beside you. You are a
Oh, that's true.
Don't stop now.
I follow our McCree. In a few seconds, I'm gonna be very quick to abandon him, and I don't know why I did. It is debatable whether I could have out-healed the enemy McCree damage that killed him, but with Farah dead for a few seconds and cover in that area, I may have been able to help out or at least res him afterwards. I could have maybe super jumped using Orisa to get an angle on the res, but with Farah brought back and an enemy McCree, that would have been pretty risky. I'm about to die during a res, and I probably should have guessed people were pushed up due to where the cart was. Even without the risks, I'm wondering if I actually wanted to do it since they're so pushed up and we're so far back. Ideally, Hog should have helped me, but I didn't say anything over voice chat and he's hiding so one of us can touch to contest, which, fair. Peeking outside the doorway would have given me intel, but probably death as well, although since I die anyway, having res available when I respawn is technically better. Personally, I am leaning towards the fight was already lost, and pushing as a 3 if the res went through may have been enough to stall for the rest to get back, but also could have been a unsuccessful feed.
Fast spawn.
No.
Three, one.
Flicker.
Ball stunned.
I'm behind you guys together.
We've got a pick, but multiple allies are injured and the enemy team may realise the main healer isn't in the fight and be compelled to push, so I Valk early from spawn for the extra movement speed, ready to heal everyone back up. Not a super impactful ult because it turns out the enemy team isn't pushed up at all, but rather safe than sorry.
There's one over there.
I'm being attacked. Damage increase.
5 minutes.
Brick 1 HP. I'll try to red.
Need help?
Okay, that
Oh,
barrier.
Zen, what? Okay. I got it.
Where does it end?
When I had you.
I intentionally fly in a way that makes me pass McCree so I can give some body block protection during his ult.
Don't let up on them. Dynamic
Shield.
There's a one.
I'm with
You have full
Where
on
does
up?
her?
Heilstrahl activiert.
I don't know what to do.
In
Oh,
a
okay.
few seconds, 3 allies are going to die to Farah ult, and it was about here I realised reses were getting me in trouble. I could go for Orisa, but I knew if I did, they'd hear the sound effect and push on me, so let's just get back. A dead ally says the 3 of us cannot die, and he's right, it'd be a huge stagger for what is the last area, so I'm gonna Valk to dual heal and keep myself regenerating health. Ugh, that shot from Ashe is heartbreaking every time. I think about going Moira until we get a pick on their Mercy, making the fight totally winnable. Looking back, I still should have done it, and Mercy's single target healing just didn't cut it in this cramped, damage-heavy fight.
Full on.
All
I'm
big.
taking care of
I did so.
My priority is pretty bad, and I basically let Zen die as I heal the tank that's got his orb. I'm pretty sure I thought I had enough time to flick my beam here. Since Zen's corpse is so close to the cart and shield, I maybe could have rezzed while dancing between it, but I felt pressure to keep healing. Zen died with Transcendence, and arguably rezzing him would have been very valuable, even if I had died for it. Although I made mistakes, this also solidifies that Moira would have been better here in my opinion. And that death right there would have been another good opportunity to change to her. Our Hog is about to need healing while on the other side of the room an enemy Wrecking Ball plants his mines between us. I felt hesitant to fly over because of one in particular, and I didn't just want to walk across the room because of enemy Bob. I should have told Hog this over voice chat, and maybe he could have positioned himself behind the cart or just nearer to me. I go for the res and get hit by dynamite. I tell myself, with Valk's health regeneration, as long as I take no extra damage, I will be okay here. So I try to shimmy behind cover until enemy Orissa's Hulk pulls me out. Really nice shot from Ashe there. Felt absolutely horrible to be on the receiving end though.
Dude. Holy shit.
That's just one. Nice.
Since we already have Moira, I pick Lucio. While dead as him, I'll often hold down W and E to automatically boost myself forward upon spawning. In Kark's Obscure Tips video, he mentioned camera angle affecting wall riding, and by looking at the floor I can avoid bonking my head on the ceiling. Knowing this has been really helpful since I've often been hesitant to speed out of spawn because of it.
Justice reigns from above.
Well, that was a good stall.
Oh, they survived for so long.
Time to change it up.
Yeah, we just didn't have enough damage in the end.
I still think it was not enough healing rather than not enough damage. Okay, so, they capped all 3 points but in overtime, so all we had to do was the same but with time left on the clock. We begin by running Torb, who, after his rework, isn't that bad on attack in my opinion. Like, I don't have a small sense of doubt in the back of my mind like I used to. That being said, I generally don't prioritise Torb with damage boost unless he's in Molten Core, and I'm most likely going to keep an eye on him while boosting others.
Heilstrahl
Hold
aktiviert.
on.
Damage boost
He's 1
engaged.
HP, boss. You have full?
Got a Sonic one.
Great team.
Risk the Discord.
Healing stream engaged.
Hanzo one. He's one.
We're about to cap and my only dead ally is Hanzo. I couldn't decide whether to res him or not because he was going to come back at our new spawn and I thought it might be a waste, especially if someone got picked off 20 seconds later. In my VODs, I always stress the importance of pushing up after capping to stagger defenders, and an extra body right away would have been nice, but I think either play was fine.
Is he up there?
Did he flank?
No, he's not here.
I got first.
He got out to the left.
I want to help Hanzo, so what I should have done was fly to him, cancel GA early and then hover, rather than fly high enough to show my head. Very lucky that was only a body shot. I do it again and learn from my mistake, this time not taking damage. At the time, I didn't know Hanzo generated ult charge while his dragons were up, so I did briefly look for someone else to damage boost, but he was the only one pushing up, so I stuck with him.
Ashe dead.
Since we have picks, I want to Valk so I can fly up to res Hanzo, and in the same frame, our Torb is one shot, so instead I decide to play safe and stick with healing, unsure if the fight is still winnable. Then we use Transcendence, which indicates we're still committed to the fight, and since they aren't running Ana to ruin it with anti-nade, I should have time to leave the fight and res Torb. I actually hesitate because enemy Mercy is Valking nearby, and it's not impossible for her to be tracking my intentions and plan to pistol me when I go for it. I don't think I was aware of how much time I had left on Valkyrie since I don't take it into consideration while positioning. Instead of falling back as Valken did, I just dropped into the fight. Also, during that ult, I hit the payload during GA, and maybe it's because Valk was active, but I just flung into the air, rather than lose momentum, which is what normally happens when I hit a prop during flight. Interesting to note, but not good when the enemy has 2 snipers.
Yeah, Hog and Hanzo. Hanzo
Lovely.
top.
My team gets these great picks, and everyone is stable apart from our Widow in the back, which steals my attention. I leave the fight to see if she's okay, placing my back to everything else. I think you could either classify this as a misplay or having trust in your teammates, depending on how critical you're feeling. My mind goes back to the earlier Hanzo situation where I left him to respawn normally and decided to go for the res this time. Judging by Hog, we're probably going to push up and play aggressively, and for that I want a second healer with us.
Damage amplified. You needed a doctor?
Pulling. Why'd that happen?
So one.
I'm looking free.
I'm watching at Torbjorn and see the dragon coming his way. I know I can't out-heal the damage, so I don't even bother removing beam off my current target. I go to res our widow and turn my back on fighting allies in the process. When resing during a fight, you really need to ask yourself if teammates can afford not having your healing for a few seconds, and I wasn't able to answer that because of my camera position. In this case, I think the answer was no, I needed a heal.
You're on your own, Hog. Be careful.
No one
I'm alone. Oh, you guys. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
shit.
sight.
It's fine.
Let's get you back out there.
I think they don't know.
No, they don't.
They're supposed to be moving.
Oh, their Hanzo might have noticed.
Oh yeah, they know. They know. They know.
No, we need to push it to help then.
Let's go in.
Come.
If our hog dies after all this, that's such a big stagger for us, so we really need to help him. I Valk for extra speed and to deal with my split team easier. This Valk doesn't look flashy, but I think it's pretty solid. Bad habits die hard because I'm about to go for another dangerous res, but this time I live, and I think that's why I keep doing them, because sometimes they do work.
I think we can get the space.
I can see Hanzo arrows to my left, and my allies are saying he's there, and for whatever reason, I just ignore it. Thankfully, it sounds like he repositioned to the upper platform, and shout out to my tanks for body blocking, because my health was literally 2 at one point. We win the fight and cap, but I can't help but think of a scenario where I died during that res, and my team lost the fight because they had no healers. Luckily, we had enough time on the clock that if that had happened, it would have been recoverable. Alright, so either we win or we draw. I was a little worried because we ran Torbjorn every round, meaning the enemy might be expecting it. Once you know or suspect a team is going to be running an off-meta character, you can take more precautions to countering them, hence why it might work out at first, but not so much as the game goes on.
Nice.
Both teams get a pick, so I want a res to give us the number advantage. I then fly to our Torba, get caught on a table, and my momentum is just gone. There's a McCree above, so I just crouch, spam, and panic, which is my go-to when flustered, and somehow live.
Go left.
Our hog is critical but flanking, so I can't afford to go help him. So instead I watch, knowing he'll self-heal in the cover he's found, and I ready myself for when he peeks the ledge. I super jump so I can get a fly path on him early, and his flank kicks ass.
Hug behind. Nice. Yep.
And there we go, a nice little win despite my extensive sabotage in the first round. Thank you so much for watching, feel free to check out my Patreon, be careful with those reses, and have a nice day.